Thank you for joining us today and welcome back to WAMS Webinar Wednesdays. Kathleen Kvitek, WAMS Director of Training, will be joining us, and today's presentation is all about protecting your client's data. If you're not too familiar with WAMS, I'll share a little about us. WAMS has been providing law firms and businesses with computer consulting and support services since '74. We continue our reputation for quality and service today by installing and proactively maintaining computer systems, as well as providing technology solutions for hundreds of law firms and businesses. We keep our implementation agreements friendly and flexible to take advantage of opportunities that benefit both the client and WAMS. From start to finish, we care about your business and support our clients to be as successful as possible. And today we are going to go ahead and cover the CCPA, and if you're not familiar with what that is, Kathleen will elaborate in just a moment. And then we will go ahead into new security policies to be aware of, then Windows products reaching end of life, and a few more tips to protect your data.
So here's the scoop. The CCPA is the new California Consumer Privacy Act of 2018. It is also known as AB 375. We'll also be discussing the International Organization for Standardization, known as ISO 17799 and ISO 27001 through 27002. Additionally, specifically, we will be discussing the end of life for Windows 7, Windows Server 2008, and Exchange 2010.
If you have any questions, please send them to info@wamsinc.com. That's info@wamsinc.com, and we will address them in a timely manner after the presentation. You may already be wondering, why is this important for my business? How it applies to you. In a recent report from Newmeyer and Dillon, the dark overlord strikes the practice of law, what law firms can do to protect themselves. Evo G. Danielle writes, according to the American Bar Association 2018 Legal Technology Survey Report, 23% of the law firms who participated in the survey reported that their law firm experienced a data breach. So on average, that would mean there's roughly a 78% chance that you are safe. This webinar is designed to help you to not be a part of that 23% and strengthen your odds against data breaches. So let's get started with the CCPA. So CCPA stands for California Consumer Privacy Act of 2018. It will officially go into effect January 2020 and is very similar to GDPR for those that are familiar. For those that are not, Kathleen will break that down a little bit more. And so reports are stating that January 2020, the act will immediately affect firms and businesses meeting any of the following criteria: annual revenue exceeding $25 million, annually receiving directly or indirectly the personal information of 50,000 or more California residents, devices, or households, or if 50% or more of your annual revenue is derived from the sale of personal information about California residents.
Who will it affect? Eventually, most clients or most organizations in California that collect any kind of California residents' personal data, regardless of the size, are going to be affected by this. And why is this relevant to our clients? It is known as one of the most far-reaching and strongest acts of legislation ever enacted in the U.S. towards consumer privacy. It is believed this marks the beginning of stricter U.S. consumer privacy protections across the board. This includes privacy policies, security protections, and protections of consumer rights. So, as many of you may know from listening to our webinars for the last several months, they have been all about cybersecurity and all about protecting your data. So we have stated that hackers are getting smarter and trickier all the time. So not only do you have to protect yourself and business from being hacked now, but you also and also from having your data and network be paralyzed or ransomed, you will potentially also be subject to major penalties if your system is breached and you have clients' personal data stored on your system. So this means pretty much all of our WAMS clients need to be informed about the CCPA, because eventually it will affect all of our clients regardless of the size of their business. The CCPA bill refers to personal data. So it is important for our clients to be educated about what personal data actually means. Now, this is just a very short little list. You will definitely at some point need to be much more informed about the details of the CCPA. But if you keep financial information, family information, biometric data, or health information about any of your clients, then you will definitely need to be aware of and start learning more and more about the CCPA. Okay, so to understand the CCPA and how it will affect all California businesses in the future, I need to give you a little background on the European Union's privacy regulations. That is the GDPR. The GDPR, which is titled the General Data Protection Regulation, was agreed upon in 2016. The purpose of the GDPR is so that the EU members all fall under the same data security law, and the data protection requirements are the same across the EU. And the EU's data protection regulations directly influenced those that put together the California privacy law. So if you can see where we are getting at here, since the GDPR influenced California privacy law and the GDPR may affect you and your clients, you can see where it's tying all together. Something else that you need to know about this is that any company that markets goods or services to the EU will be affected by the GDPR. So if we break this down a little further, before we even go back to the California Privacy Act, if you have any clients based in the EU and you have any of their data stored on your system and you experience a data breach, you will also be subject to the EU's regulations and penalties. So basically, the GDPR will affect data protection globally. So again, back to the CCPA. So if we already know that the EU's GDPR will affect data security globally, we can infer that the CCPA will sooner rather than later affect data security throughout the US and eventually globally as well. Initially, it was thought that only companies like Google and Facebook, which are based in California and are very large companies that collect personal data, would be affected by the CCPA. But as experts are predicting, it is only a matter of time before other states will pass their own legislation. And even though all of those 50 states have already enacted legislation to protect private data information, none of them are as strong as the CCPA. So the key here is to realize that although it won't affect most of our clients and those on the call today immediately, it is going to affect you in the not too distant future. So again, become aware of the details of the CCPA, and you have time to begin preparing now. Now, if you are a small or mid-sized business and your firm or company is considered a service provider by a larger business, you will also then be covered by the CCPA. We have that specific example, which will be discussed a little later in this webinar, about one of our clients being already affected. And also something else to consider, that if you are a family law practice, estate planning, or probate, because of the collection of personal information, this is another example of where the CCPA may eventually, sooner rather than later, affect you. This is not our only example. This is just one, to consider for today. Also, our law firm clients will also see increased litigation from California consumers. So you should be aware of the fact that this could actually be a business opportunity for you. So again, we can't stress enough the need to educate yourselves about the CCPA.
Next up, let's cover some new security policies to be aware of. We are seeing clients beginning to need to follow this security policy implemented by the International Organization for Standardization. Some cyber insurance providers are requiring that firms are compliant with these standards as well. So your firm may be held to this standard soon if it isn't already. We've actually seen that from a client already, which Kathleen will discuss in a minute. So to break it down, the ISO 27002 standard is a collection of information security guidelines that are intended to help an organization implement, maintain, and improve its information security management. We have already seen this done effectively.
So I recently met with our client, who is a mid-sized law firm here in Los Angeles, and they do the majority of their work with some of the larger insurance companies, and they are AIG and Zurich and Crum & Forrester. And within the last couple of months, all three of these insurance companies sent communication to our client with security policy and compliance requirements in order for them to continue to do business with them. So you can imagine what that would mean to our client. Without proof of compliance, they could be put out of business by losing their biggest clients within just a couple of months. It took weeks for our technical engineer and the firm administration to prove compliance, or again, and they were also given a very short time frame to do so with very little information to go upon at the beginning. The requirements and the process was definitely not quick and easy for them. Each of the three insurance companies they received the requirements from had a different and extensive list of things they needed to prove and show. As far as our engineer and firm administration was concerned, it was an unexpected and just extremely time-consuming process. They basically had to teach themselves about the ISO that Ashley told us about earlier. They also had to teach themselves about details of security requirements. They had to make changes to their network, and they had to rewrite firm policy and documentation, and then produce and prove all of it to those three major insurance companies that I told you about. So again, we are trying to inform our other clients about the fact that the ISO is a great resource if you wind up needing to prove to any of your clients or businesses that you work with that the ISO is a good place to begin in order to be more informed. And we believe that this is going to happen more and more to all types of business. Our example today was just our client that happens to work with insurance companies, but that's not going to be the end of it. So we do have other resources for you as well. We can direct you towards some companies known for their corporate compliance in America and around the world. And we also can direct you to a couple of companies that provide document templates, security policy document templates. So these are actually Microsoft Word documents that you can purchase and download, and then you can use those as a starting place to rewrite your security policies at your firm in order to prove that your standards are up to date. So additionally, we also have other resources for best practices for security requirements above and beyond the ISO. And since we have been through this now, we definitely want to share what might happen and that we can help you with any of your security compliance needs or requirements. So if you do need that information, then if you send in, you can email us at info@wamsinc.com for that information, and we'll be happy to provide that for you. Okay, so tying this all together. Today we've talked to you so far about the CCPA, the California Privacy Act, the ISO, the International Standards Organization, and the GDPR, the European Union's privacy regulations. And what we want you to understand is that all of these are things that you need to know about and or can reach out to us to get more information to make sure that you are secure and any of your privacy policies are up to date. Also, as Ashley mentioned, one of our resources for preparing for this webinar is an article that was written by an attorney who discusses the fact that the cyber criminal gang known as the Dark Overlord has been targeting law firms. And in this article, it is also stated that the FBI has recently announced that law firms are being considered a one-stop shop for cyber criminals. So again, we really want to just keep our clients very informed about what you can do and what to be looking for to protect your company and your clients' data. It's also stated in the same article that that law firms have a duty to safeguard information of their clients. And so one of the things to keep in mind is that security training is really the key. Stated in this article, we've stated this in our recent webinars, that training your employees and being informed is the key, because we really need to work together on this. One final thought about this, the CCPA and all of this information that we've given to you so far, is that our client who got the insurance policy requirements and our WAMS engineer now have discussed with us that they feel that the reason they received these compliance requirements from the insurance companies is directly related to the fact that California passed this new privacy law, and also directly related to the fact that the European Union has the GDPR now. So this is what we're trying to get across to our clients today, is just that it doesn't matter what size you are. Again, remember, this was a mid-sized law firm of ours. These are things to be aware of, and we are a resource for you.
Next up, we need to make you aware of the Windows products reaching end of life. So the Windows products nearing end of life and will officially reach end of life on January 14, 2020, as Kathleen stated earlier, are Windows 7, Windows Server 2008, and Exchange 2010. You're probably wondering why this is important to the management of your client's data. So security patches will no longer occur, leaving you vulnerable if there are any exploits discovered. Updates will come to an end and may cause your system to no longer be compatible with applications that you rely on. And Exchange 2010 users' email may be compromised and holds the potential to destroy the integrity of your data and your ability to protect client information. And so we have already been asked, why can't I keep working with what I have? You can for now, but you are working at your own risk, so proceed with caution. You will be vulnerable to any unpatched exploits, and Microsoft will no longer offer any support. You will not be able to update applications. This may not be an issue immediately, but as updates come around, you will be expected to be working from a more up-to-date system to keep applications compatible. Your email can easily be compromised in Exchange due to the lack of security patching, and you could lose your data integrity and even your business if you do not update and hackers take advantage of a new exploit that cannot be patched. So right now, you can talk to your IT service provider and ask them if you are using any of these products. Determine the best move for your business and be aware of your options. Do not be complacent about this. We cannot stress this enough. You do not wait for the deadline to near and handle this proactively. If you are using any of these products, schedule your upgrade yesterday because the deadline will be here before you know it. Do not put it off. Now, a few more tips to protect your data. I'm sure you're thinking, what else can I do? It's always important to have a solid backup in place. Disaster recovery and continuity plans are so important. And a few tips shared by the aforementioned report from Newmeyer and Dillon include: start by taking an inventory and risk assessment of the firm to determine what needs to be protected. The inventory should include both technology and data. Develop, implement, and maintain an appropriate cybersecurity program that complies with applicable ethical and legal obligations. Ensure the cybersecurity program addresses people, policies, and procedures, and technology. The cybersecurity program must designate an individual or a group to be in charge and coordinate security. Develop an incident response plan scaled to the size of your firm. Continually train staff and attorneys to identify and understand potential cybersecurity threats. Consider implementing a third-party assessment of firm cybersecurity program and policies. Purchase cyber liability for insurance, which not only covers first-party losses to law firms like lost productivity, data restoration, and legal expenses, but also liability protection to third parties. Implement authentication and access controls for network, computers, and mobile devices used by the firm's staff and attorneys. Consider the use of full drive encryption for computers and mobile devices. Have staff and attorneys avoid and/or limit the use of public Wi-Fi when working remotely. And last but not least, create a disaster recovery plan to back up all data in the event of a cyber attack or natural catastrophe. And that concludes our presentation today. Now, if this was helpful, but you'd like to dive a little deeper, or maybe you need some education and training on both applications or other applications, WAMS can help. Kathleen provides training both remotely or in-house, and this can be group sessions or one-on-one. We offer total customization to your needs. We can cover general software, legal software, custom macro packages, and Microsoft Office, document management systems, and security. Go ahead and email info@wamsinc.com to learn more. Once again, if you have any questions about the tips discussed today, also please email info@wamsinc.com and we will be happy to assist and/or send you any of those resources that Kathleen mentioned earlier. Now, if any of you are curious about what else WAMS can do to make your IT solution the best it can be, we offer managed services, cloud services, projects and consulting, security auditing and implementation, disaster recovery, and of course, training. And you can reach us at 800-421-7151 and learn more by logging on to wamsinc.com. Thank you again for joining us today. And be sure to join us next month on Wednesday, May 29 for a deep dive into Microsoft products reaching end of life.